and to welcome the leadership of His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary
ainsi que
General of the
l'engagement
United
remarquable
Nations, as well as
de
the
Madame
outstanding
Bintou Keïta,
commitment of Madame Bintou
représentante
Keïta,
spéciale et
Special
chef de la
Representative
MONUSCO.
and Head of
Je remercie
MONUSCO.
aussi Madame
I would also
Oubalamba
like
pour
to
son
thank Madame
témoignage qui nous a
Oubalamba
tous
for
interpellés.
her briefing,
Nous nous
which was
réunissons à un
touching to
moment
us all.
crucial,
We
à la
have
veille
come
du
to a
renouvellement
crucial
du mandat
time
de
on
la
the eve
MONUSCO
of the renewal
pour
of
faire le
MONUSCO's
point sur une
mandate
crise
to
qui
give an
exige
update on a
clarté
crisis which
et
requires
détermination.
clarity and determination.
Et je compte sur vos
And I
délibérations
count on your
pour traduire
deliberations
en
in order
actes
to
l'urgence des
translate
défis qui nous concernent tous.
the challenges that we all face into concrete action.
Madame la Présidente, le rapport du secrétaire
Madam
général,
President, the report of the
document
Secretary General, document S/2024/863
du 28
of the
novembre
28th of
2024,
November
dont votre Conseil est
2024
saisi,
that
fait
your
état d'une
Council is
situation
considering
sécuritaire extrêmement
describes
préoccupante
an
à l'est de la
extremely
République
concerning
démocratique
security
du
situation
Congo.
in the eastern
Les
part of
rapports
the
d'experts
DRC.
mandatés par ce Conseil
Reports of
ont
experts
confirmé les
mandated
violations
by this
flagrantes
Council
de
have
notre
confirmed the
souveraineté.
flagrant violations of our
En
sovereignty.
effet,
Indeed,
plus de
more
4
than
000 membres
4,000
des
members
forces de
of
défense
the
rwandaises
Rwandan Defense
présents
Forces
illégalement sur notre
present
territoire
illegally on our
mènent des
territory are
offensives
carrying
avec
out
le soutien du
offensives with the
M23.
support of the M23.
Ces actes
These acts
constituent une agression
constitute
planifiée
planned
et
and
préméditée
premeditated
en violation
aggression in
manifeste de la
clear
Charte des Nations
violation of the
Unies,
United Nations
de l'acte
Charter
constitutif de l'Union
and the
africaine et des
constitutive
principes
act of the
fondamentaux
African
du
Union
droit
and the
international.
fundamental principles of international law.
Les conséquences
The
sont
consequences are
accablantes.
terrifying.
Le massacre
The
de
massacre
Kichiché,
in
le
Kishishi
29
on the 29th of
novembre
November
2022,
2022
incarne les atrocités perpétrées
is an example
avec
of
des
the atrocities
exécutions sommaires
perpetrated
et
with
des
summary
viols infligés à des
executions and
civils.
the rape of civilians.
Bombardement du camp de déplacés
The
interne
bombing
de
of the
Mugunga,
IDP camp
causant la mort
in
d'au moins
Mugunga,
35
causing
civils
the
en mai
death of at least
2024,
35
majoritairement
civilians in
des
May
femmes et des enfants.
2024, the
Et
majority
hier
of them
encore,
women and children.
dimanche
And
8
yesterday,
décembre, le bombardement de
Sunday the 8th
l'école
of December, the
Bungeni à
bombing of
Luofu,
the
dans le
Bungeni School
territoire de
in
Lubero.
Luofu in the
Ces
Lubero
violences ont
territory.
conduit à des déplacements massifs.
This violence has led to
Près de
massive
3
displacement.
déplacés
More
sur
than
4 en
3
RDC cette
out of
année
4
sont liés
displaced
au
people in
conflit avec le
DRC
Rwanda
this year
et le
are
M23,
displaced because of a conflict with
exacerbant une
Rwanda
crise
and the
humanitaire
M23,
déjà
exacerbating
dramatique.
an already dramatic
Par
humanitarian
ailleurs,
crisis.
les
Moreover,
déplacements prémédités de civils,
premeditated displacements of
combinés à la
civilians combined
nomination
with the
illégitime d'autorités coutumières
illegitimate
et
customary and
territoriales
territorial
imposées par le
authorities
M23
imposed by the
traduisent une
M23
volonté claire
demonstrate a
de
clear
redessiner la
willingness to
composition démographique
redesign the
des
demographic
territoires
composition
sous leur
of
contrôle.
territories under their
Ces
control.
pratiques,
These practices,
qui s'apparentent à
which
une
have all
épuration
the
ethnique,
hallmarks of
visent
ethnic
à
cleansing,
établir
aim to
un
establish
contrôle durable
lasting control
tout en
by
sapant les
hollowing
structures
out
sociales et
the social
culturelles
and cultural
existantes
structures that
et en
exist and
exacerbant
by
les tensions
exacerbating
locales.
local tensions.
Comme si cela ne
As
suffisait
if
pas,
that were not enough,
le Rwanda
Rwanda has
également a
also
ciblé les
targeted
forces de maintien de la paix de la
MONUSCO
MONUSCO
peacekeeping
et de la
forces
SADC.
as well as
Et
SAMI
pourtant, le
DRC.
Rwanda continue de
And
qualifier
however,
tous ces
Rwanda
actes
continues
de
to
mesures
qualify all of these
défensives.
acts as defensive measures.
Mais bombarder des camps
However,
de déplacés,
bombing
occuper
displaced
illégalement un
camps,
territoire
illegally
étranger
occupying a
et
foreign
piller ses
territory
ressources
and
naturelles
plundering its
n'a
natural
rien de
resources
défensif.
has nothing to do with
Ce
defense.
ne sont pas les discours
These
du Rwanda
are,
qui
it is not
définissent
the
sa
speeches
posture,
made
mais
by
ses
Rwanda
actes.
that define its posture,
Madame la
but its
Présidente,
actions.
pour
Madam
mettre fin à
President,
cette
in order
guerre,
to
mon
put an
pays
end
s'est
to this
engagé avec
war, my country
détermination dans le
has
processus
committed
de
with
Luanda,
determination to the
sous les auspices du
Luanda
président
process
angolais
under the
João Lourenço.
auspices of Angolan President
Dans ce
João
cadre,
Lourenço.
la RDC a pris
In this
l'engagement ferme
regard, the DRC
de
has undertaken
neutraliser
a firm
les forces
commitment to
démocratiques de
neutralize the
libération du
democratic
Rwanda,
forces,
tel que prévu
the
par le concept
FDLR,
d'opération
as provided
adopté
for
le
in the
25
CONOPS
novembre à
adopted on the
Luanda.
25th of November in
Concept
Luanda,
d'opération
a
dans lequel
concept
le
of
Rwanda, lui,
operations which
s'est engagé à
Rwanda
retirer ses
itself,
troupes du territoire
whereby
souverain
Rwanda
congolais.
itself has committed to withdrawing its
Le
troops
5
from
novembre à
Congolese
Goma,
territory.
les ministres
On the
des
5th of
Affaires
November in
étrangères
Goma,
d'Angola,
foreign
du
affairs
Rwanda
ministers of
et
Angola,
moi-même
Rwanda and
avons
myself
lancé le mécanisme de
launched the
vérification
enhanced
ad
ad
hoc
hoc
renforcé,
verification mechanism
mandaté pour
mandated to
pour
monitor the
surveiller le
ceasefire
cessez-le-feu, entré en vigueur le
that
4
entered into
août.
force on the 4th of August.
Composé de
Made
18
up of
experts
18
angolais et de 3
Angolan
experts
experts and 3
congolais et rwandais
Congolese and
respectivement,
Rwandan
ce
experts,
mécanisme représentait
respectively.
une
This
étape clé
mechanism
dans la
represents
concrétisation
a
des
key
engagements pris.
stage for the achievement of
Or,
the goals set out.
depuis
But
sa
since its
création, les
creation,
experts rwandais
the Rwandan
n'ont jamais
experts
assumé
have
leurs
never
fonctions.
taken up their seats.
Cela fait donc 34
For
jours que
34
le
days
fonctionnement
now,
de ce
the functioning
mécanisme
of this
est
mechanism
entravé,
has been hindered,
mettant en doute la volonté du Rwanda
calling
de
into doubt the
respecter ses
willingness of
engagements.
Rwanda to respect
Pendant
its
ce temps,
commitments. Over
le
this
Rwanda et
time,
le M23
Rwanda
sont
and the M23 have
systématiquement
systematically
continué
continued to
à violer le
violate the
cessez-le-feu
ceasefire
tout en
while
paralysant
paralyzing
délibérément le
deliberately the
mécanisme pour
mechanism
échapper
in order
à
to
toute
evade any
responsabilité.
accountability.
Face à
In the
ces
face of these
réalités
alarming
attentes, il
realities,
est
it
impératif
is
que ce
imperative
Conseil
that this
reste
Council
mobilisé dans
remains
son soutien au
mobilized in its
processus de
support
Luanda
for the
et
Luanda
exige
process
des
and
parties le
demand of
respect
the
de leurs
parties that they
engagements.
respect their commitments.
Madame la Présidente,
Madam
dans cette
President,
optique, le renouvellement
in
du mandat de
that
la MONUSCO
vein,
doit
the renewal of the
impérativement
mandate of
refléter la
MONUSCO
dimension
must, as a
régionale du conflit,
priority, reflect
tout en
the regional
maintenant une
dimension of the
approche
conflict,
conditionnelle
while
et
maintaining a
responsable pour
conditional
son
and
retrait
responsible
progressif.
approach for its phased
Cela est essentiel
withdrawal.
pour répondre
This
aux menaces
is of critical
transfrontalières
importance to
et
tackle
garantir qu'aucun
cross-border
vide
threats and to
sécuritaire ne
ensure
soit
that
laissé.
there be no security
La
vacuum left
RDC
behind.
salue à cet égard
The
la
DRC, in
résolution
this regard,
2746
applauds Resolution
qui reconnaît le rôle
2746,
central de la communauté
which
de
recognizes
développement
the
de l'Afrique
central
australe
role of the
dans la
South African Development
stabilisation
Community
régionale.
in
La
regional
mission
stabilization.
SAMI-DRC,
The
mandatée dans
SAMI-DRC
ce
mission,
cadre, constitue
mandated
un
in
pilier
this framework,
stratégique
is a
pour
strategic
renforcer
framework
les efforts conjoints de
to
protection des
enhance
civils
the
et de
joint
lutte contre
civilian
les menaces
protection efforts and to
transfrontalières.
fight against cross-border threats.
Cependant, ces
However,
défis
these
nécessitent une
challenges
coordination
require
encore plus
even
étroite
closer
entre la MONUSCO
cooperation
et le bureau de
between
l'envoyé
MONUSCO and the
spécial pour la
Office of
région des
Special
Grands Lacs.
Envoy for the Great
Il est
Lakes
crucial
region.
que ce bureau,
It is
dont les
crucial for
attributions
this
doivent être
office,
renforcées,
whose
assume un rôle
authorities should
central
be
dans la
reinforced
gestion des
for it to
dynamiques
assume a central
transfrontalières.
role in the management
Une
of
telle
cross-border
évolution
dynamics.
permettrait
Such
à
a
la
development
MONUSCO
will allow
de
MONUSCO
centrer ses
to
efforts sur des
center
zones
its efforts
particulièrement
on
critiques au
particularly
Nord
critical
Kivu et
zones
en
in North
Ituri,
Kivu
tout en
and
assurant
Kivu and in
une réponse
Ituri, while
régionale
ensuring
intégrée
that
et cohérente
an
par
integrated and
l'ensemble du
coherent
système des Nations
regional
Unies.
response be
Le
provided by the
transfert
whole
progressif des
of the UN
responsabilités
system.
sécuritaires aux
The phased
FRDC
transfer of
devra
security-related
s'accompagner d'une
responsibilities to
planification
the
conjointe
FARDC
avec les
needs to
équipes provinciales
include
intégrées de
joint planning
transition
with
et le
the
gouvernement
integrated
congolais.
transition teams
De
and the
même,
Congolese
les
government.
agences des Nations Unies
Likewise, the
doivent
United Nations
continuer d'assumer
agencies need to
progressivement
continue to
les responsabilités de
progressively shoulder
développement et d'assistance
responsibilities for
humanitaire.
development and for humanitarian
Enfin,
assistance.
la MONUSCO doit
Lastly,
poursuivre son
MONUSCO
partenariat
should
avec la
continue
République démocratique
to
du Congo
advance its
dans le
partnership
contexte
with
du
the
programme
DRC
de
in the context
désarmement,
of the Disarmament,
démobilisation, relèvement
Demobilization,
communautaire et
Community Recovery and
stabilisation,
Stabilization
PDDRCS,
Program,
en contribuant
by
à ce que ces
contributing
initiatives soient
to
durables et
ensuring
transparentes.
that these initiatives be
Le
both
renouvellement de
lasting
ce
and
mandat représente
transparent.
donc
The
une
renewal of the
occasion cruciale de
mandate
tirer les
presents
leçons
a
des
critical
approches passées
opportunity to draw
tout en
lessons from
répondant aux
past
réalités
approaches
actuelles.
while
Une
addressing
reconnaissance
present-day
explicite des
realities,
dimensions
explicit
internationales du
recognition of the
conflit,
international
couplée
dimensions of the
à une
conflict,
transition coordonnée,
alongside
permettra de
a
consolider les acquis
coordinated
et de
transition will
garantir
help to
que la
cement
MONUSCO
the
laisse un
gains
héritage
made
durable
and
pour
to
la
ensure
paix
that
et la
MONUSCO will
sécurité.
leave a lasting
Madame la
legacy for
Présidente,
peace and
distingués membres
security
du
in the Great
Conseil, le
Lakes
Sud
region.
Kivu
Ladies
offre
and
un exemple
gentlemen, Madam
concret des
President, South
opportunités et des
Kivu
défis liés au
provides a
retrait de la
concrete example
MONUSCO.
and opportunities
Une
for
mission
challenges
d'évaluation
related to the
conjointe
withdrawal
en ce
of
mois de décembre
MONUSCO.
a révélé des avancées
A joint
significatives.
evaluation
Le
mission in the month
déploiement
of December
efficace des
revealed
FRDC,
significant progress.
l'activation
The
des bases
effective deployment
transférées
of
et la mise en
the
place de mécanismes
FARDC,
d'alerte
activation
précoce
of
pour
bases that
protéger les
have been
civils.
transferred to replace
Ces résultats
and
illustrent
the
qu'un retrait
establishment of
responsable,
early warning mechanisms to protect civilians. These results illustrate
lorsque les conditions sont réunies, peut
that
renforcer
a
la
responsible
stabilité
withdrawal,
et
when
la
the
résilience des
conditions are
communautés.
met, can help
Cependant,
to
les zones
enhance
sensibles comme
stability
Calais
and
et Fizi
resilience of
restent
communities. And
exposées aux
however,
menaces
sensitive
persistantes des
areas,
groupes armés,
such as Calais and
exacerbant les
Fizi,
risques de
continue
violation
to be
des droits humains.
exposed to persistent
Ces
threats from
défis
armed
soulignent
groups, and this
l'importance d'une
exacerbates risks
coordination
of
étroite
human rights
entre
being
le gouvernement
violated.
congolais et ses
These
partenaires.
challenges emphasize
Le
the importance
gouvernement
of
de la
close
RDC
coordination
demeure
between the
fermement
Congolese
engagé à
government and its
surmonter ces
partners.
défis,
The
mobilisant
DRC
plus de 30
government
millions de
remains
dollars pour soutenir
steadfastly
cette
committed to
transition,
surmounting
en
these
complément
challenges,
des 23 millions
mobilizing
de
more
dollars
than
d'appui des Nations
30
Unies.
million US
Cet
dollars in
engagement
addition to the
reflète notre
23
détermination
million US dollars
à
of support
renforcer
from the United
l'autorité de
Nations.
l'État et
This
à garantir
commitment
une
reflects our
stabilisation
determination
durable
to
des
shore
zones
up the
libérées.
authority of the state and to guarantee
Les enseignements tirés
a
du Sud
lasting
Kivu
stabilization in
orienteront
the
la
liberated
planification des prochains
zones.
désengagements,
The lessons
avec un
drawn from
accent
South Kivu will
particulier sur
guide planning
l'évaluation
for
des
forthcoming
conditions locales,
disengagements,
une
with a
coordination
particular
renforcée
emphasis on
avec les
assessment of local
FRDC et un
conditions,
soutien
greater
accru
coordination
aux
with the
initiatives communautaires
FARDC,
pour assurer une
and
transition
stepped up
fluide
support for
et
community-based
durable.
initiatives to ensure fluid
Madame
and
la
lasting
Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs,
transition.
estimés membres du
Fluid and
Conseil,
sustained
les progrès
transition.
réalisés au Sud Kivu
Madam
démontrent
President, ladies and
que,
gentlemen,
malgré les
distinguished members
défis,
of the Council,
des
progress
solutions
achieved
peuvent
in South
émerger
Kivu show
lorsque
that
la
when
volonté politique,
that despite
la
the
coopération
challenges,
internationale et
solutions can
l'engagement local
emerge when
convergent.
political will, international
Ces enseignements
cooperation,
montrent que la
and
paix
commitment at
et
the
la
local level
stabilité sont
converge.
possibles,
The
mais qu'elles
lessons drawn
exigent un
show that
effort
peace and stability
soutenu
are possible,
et une
but that they
responsabilité
require
partagée.
sustained effort
La République démocratique du Congo
and
demeure
shared
résolument
responsibility.
engagée
The
en
DRC
faveur de la
remains
paix,
resolutely
en
committed
s'appuyant sur
to
les
peace,
principes du dialogue et du
basing ourselves on
multilatéralisme.
the principles of both
Cependant,
dialogue and
cette quête de
multilateralism.
paix ne
However,
saurait se
this
faire
quest for
au
peace
détriment de notre
cannot be
souveraineté,
undertaken at the expense of
de la
our
sécurité de
sovereignty,
nos citoyens
the safety of our
ou de la
citizens,
dignité
or
de
the
notre peuple.
dignity of our people.
Face aux défis
In the face
persistants,
of
une action
persistent
collective
challenges,
et décisive
collective
est
and
indispensable.
decisive
Et pour
action
progresser
is
vers
of
une paix
critical
durable,
importance. And in order to
nous
make
appelons ce Conseil
progress towards a
à doter la
lasting
MONUSCO des des
we call
ressources
on the Council to
nécessaires et
provide
proportionnées
MONUSCO
pour
with
garantir
adequate
pleinement
resources to
l'exécution de
ensure
son
that
mandat,
it fully
en
deliver upon its
particulier son
mandate,
rôle critique de
particularly when it
protection des
comes to its
civils,
critical
du
civilian
DDR
protection
et de la
role,
réforme du
DDR,
secteur de
as well as
sécurité,
security
condamner et
sector
sanctionner les
reform,
violations de la
condemn and
souveraineté de la
sanction
RDC
violations of the
par le
sovereignty of
Rwanda,
DRC by
y compris
Rwanda,
les incursions
including
militaires,
military
le soutien
incursions,
au
support for
M23
them
et les attaques
23,
contre les
and
civils et les
attacks
forces de
against
maintien de la
civilians
paix.
and peacekeepers.
Reconnaître explicitement
Recognize
la dimension
explicitly the
régionale du
regional
conflit dans les
dimension of the
paragraphes
conflict in
opérationnels du
the
prochain
operational
mandat de la
paragraphs
MONUSCO
of MONUSCO's
afin de
forthcoming
mieux
mandate
répondre aux
in
menaces
order to
transfrontalières,
better
et
tackle
ce, en
cross-border
attendant
threats,
l'amélioration du
pending
mandat
the
de l'envoyé
drafting of
spécial pour la région des
a
Grands Lacs.
mandate for the special envoy for
Engager
the
un
Great
plan de
Lakes region,
désengagement séquencé et
initiate a
responsable pour la
disengagement
MONUSCO,
plan that is
adapté aux
phased and
réalités
responsible
locales
for
et
MONUSCO,
minimisant les
and
risques
that
dans les
is
zones
tailored to
fragiles.
reflect local realities
Renforcer
and
la coordination entre la
minimizes
MONUSCO,
risks of
les
fragility in
FRDC et les
vulnerable areas,
mécanismes régionaux
and to
afin de
enhance
garantir
coordination
une
between
protection
MONUSCO,
durable des
FARDC, and
civils
regional
et
mechanisms
une
in order to ensure
stabilisation
lasting
efficace
protection
des
for
zones
civilians
libérées.
and
Et
effective
enfin,
and efficient stabilization
garantir un suivi
of
rigoureux et une
liberated areas,
redevabilité
and
accrue dans le
lastly,
cadre
to
du
ensure
processus de
a
Luanda,
robust follow-up and
notamment à travers les
accountability
mécanismes
and
existants
enhanced
tels que le
accountability
groupe
through the
d'experts et le
Rwanda
comité de
process,
sanctions des Nations
specifically
Unies.
existing mechanisms such as the UN group
Ces
of
actions ne
experts, to
relèvent pas
ensure that
seulement
the
d'une obligation
parties
morale.
all
Elles sont
honor their
essentielles pour
commitment.
garantir la
These are not
stabilité et
merely
la
a moral
sécurité dans la
obligation, they are
région
of
des Grands
critical
Lacs.
importance to ensure stability
Aujourd'hui,
and
ce
security in the
Conseil
Great
a
Lakes
l'occasion
region.
et la
The Security Council
responsabilité
presently has
historique
both a
de
historic
prendre des mesures
responsibility
concrètes
and
pour
an
faire face à
opportunity
cette
to take
crise.
concrete measures to
La République
tackle this
démocratique du
crisis.
Congo attend
The
un soutien
Democratic
clair
Republic of the
et
Congo
résolu pour
expects
restaurer la
clear
paix,
and resolute support to
protéger les
restore
populations
peace,
civiles et
to
préserver
protect
un ordre
civilian populations, and
international
to safeguard
fondé
an
sur le droit et
international
la souveraineté.
order
Je vous
rooted
remercie.
in law and sovereignty. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Kaya Kwamba Wagner for her statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Rwanda.
Madam President, thank you for giving me the floor. Allow me to begin by congratulating you on your presidency and stewardship of this council. I recognize the participation of Honorable Teresa Kaikwamba Wagner, Minister of Foreign Affairs of DRC, and the representative of Angola. I also extend my gratitude to the previous speakers for their contributions and to the Special Representative of the Secretary General, Madame Bitu Keita, for her briefing. I thank also the civil society briefer, Ms. Pasi Mubalama. Madam President, the Great Lakes region of Africa has immense potential, driven by vibrant interconnected communities, cultural connections, and tremendous opportunities for growth. However, the ongoing conflict fueled by both local and foreign armed groups continues to hinder this potential. Achieving lasting peace is essential for the stability of the DRC, its neighbors, and the entire region. This requires moving beyond oversimplified narratives and addressing the root causes of conflict. Framing this as intra-African hostility diminishes the complexity of the conflict and the roles of various actors involved. This is not a DRC-Rwanda issue, but a multifaceted crisis that demands nuanced understanding and coordinated action from the international community. Regional initiatives, such as those led by the African Union, the East African Community, and the International Conference on the Great Lakes region, play a critical role in fostering dialogue for peace and cooperation. Rwanda is committed to these initiatives and believes that collective regional efforts, alongside international support, are critical to resolving the underlying causes of conflict in our region. Madam President, in the spirit of finding a durable solution to the ongoing conflict in the region, the recent ESC summit recognized the need to harmonize the two peace processes, namely the Luanda and Nairobi processes. This decision was made to ensure viable solutions for all parties involved. Rwanda hopes that this council will support the regional efforts and work to avoid parallel forums which can complicate the situation and undermine the prospects for a unified, sustainable solution. Madam President, Rwanda took note of the UN Secretary General's report and joins Council members in deploring the magnitude of human suffering and the growing humanitarian crisis caused by the conflict in Eastern DRC. However, there are major deficiencies in the report which have implications for the quality of deliberations in this esteemed council and undermine the focus on the search for peace that we all aspire to achieve. The report, in its tone and narrative, creates the impression that M23 is the root cause of the conflict in Eastern DRC. Some council members have seized on this narrative to focus the blame on the group. The conflict in Eastern DRC is premised on the marginalization of the minority communities, including the Congolese Tutsi in Eastern DRC. The misinterpretation of the root causes of the conflict by some council members reinforces the DRC's intransigence against finding a viable political solution to the conflict. The report fails to fully acknowledge that peace is more prevalent in the areas controlled by the M23 than the areas under the FARDC-led coalition, composed of, among others, the Burundian forces, the genocidal FDLR, armed groups like Nyatura, Wazalendo, Pareko, and European mercenaries. Indeed, the report also acknowledges some of the atrocities committed by this coalition, which are all documented in the report. It is deeply concerning that the report completely ignores the killings, ethnic cleansing, forced displacement, denial of inherent citizen rights, and hate speech targeting Kinyarwanda-speaking Congolese, especially Congolese Tutsis. Hundreds of thousands of Congolese Rwandophones have been displaced and forced into perpetual refugee status in neighboring countries. This goes to the heart of the existence of M23, which fights to claim their rights. In addition, Madam President, there is no mention of the painful loss of lives, homes, livestock, and livelihoods resulting from the indiscriminate bombing with heavy artillery of populated areas by FARDC, SAMI-DRC, Burundian forces, and European mercenaries, mostly in Masisi, Rutshuru, and Nyiragongo areas. The targeted areas are mostly those populated by Kinyarwanda-speaking Congolese. The deafening silence of this report on the plight of Kinyarwanda-speaking Congolese who face ethnic cleansing risks being an indelible stain on some of the most powerful actors in this esteemed council who have chosen to pursue their national interests in the DRC at the expense of persecuted women, children, and minorities. We believe that such actors are capable of both protecting their interests and speaking out for those who are faced with persecution and ethnic cleansing. International humanitarian law and morality demands that we speak out for those minorities. The security situation in Ituri and Beni and the magnitude of atrocities, human rights violations, and human loss caused by ADF and Codeco is well documented, but for some reasons, underreported. ADF and Codeco alone account for the worst atrocities and human rights violations. The situation in Ituri and Beni is extremely bleak, yet the deliberations in this council create the impression that the conflict in Eastern DRC is largely centered in North Kivu and mostly around the Goma area. I would like to emphasize that over 250 domestic and 14 foreign armed groups documented in the government of DRC's PPDDRC official report of December 2003 are at the heart of the conflict and insecurity in Eastern DRC. This problem needs to be addressed comprehensively. Rwanda's primary concern is the coalition of FARDC, FDLR, and its splinter groups, a genocidal force that continues to destabilize the region. The report on MONUSCO ignores this pertinent security concern for Rwanda. The FDLR, a UN and US-sanctioned genocidal militia composed of perpetrators of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, is the longest-standing foreign armed group in Eastern DRC. The outfit is at the center of the DRC conflict and was pivotal to the creation of and existence of several other armed groups. Some Mai armed groups were born to support it and have become its proxies, such as the Nyatura and Pareko. Over the last 3 decades, the FDLR has been consistently committing ethnic cleansing, sexual violence, and large-scale human violations in Eastern DRC. Its neutralization and complete disengagement with the DRC armed forces, the FARDC, is key to finding a sustainable solution to the conflict in Eastern DRC. The report appears to equate the M23, whose legitimate causes have been ignored by the government of DRC, to the genocidal FDLR, which deserves neutralization, disarmament, and repatriation to Rwanda. More threatening, the FDLR's genocide ideology, which has spilled over into the Congolese population and shared with its proxies like Nyatura, Pareko, various Wazalendo groups, and allied groups in this conflict. The report misrepresents the Rwanda process, whereby it portrays the ceasefire as between Rwanda and DRC, which is not the case. The spirit of the Rwanda process needs to be clearly understood and taken within the right context. Otherwise, the implementation will be frustrated like previous initiatives. As part of the Rwanda process, a concept of operations, CONOPS, was signed by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of Rwanda, DRC, and Angola during the 6th ministerial meeting held on 25th November 2024 in Rwanda. The CONOPS provides for the neutralization of the genocidal FDLR, verification of the ceasefire between the conflicting parties, and lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures. This is the lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures. I think this is very important. These are measures alongside our border with DRC. Rwanda welcomes the support of MONUSCO to the reinforced ad hoc verification mechanisms as provided for in the Memorandum of Understanding signed on 23rd November in Luanda, Angola, by the Angolan Minister of External Relations, Honorable Tete Antonio, and the Special Representatives, Ms. Bintou Keita. The reinforced ad hoc verification mechanisms, comprising of 18 Angolan, 3 DRC, and 3 Rwandan military officials, was launched on 5th November 2024 in Goma, North Kivu, to monitor implementation of the CONOPS. I want to clarify that the Rwandan team was to cross this morning, Monday 9th December 2024, but was told by Lieutenant General Nason Zhao, commander of the reinforced ad hoc verification mechanism, to wait until he comes back from Luanda to Goma so that they can close. So it's not that they've been hesitant to go, but they've been waiting for instruction to close, and they'll go as they were supposed to go today, but will have to go as instructed by the general. Moreover, the tripartite summit of heads of state of Angola, Rwanda, and DRC is scheduled to be held in Luanda, Angola, on 15th December 2024. Madam President, Council members, as part of the regional initiatives, the recently concluded ESC Head of State Summit of 30th November 2024 called for the merger of the Rwanda and Nairobi peace process to find a comprehensive solution to the crisis in Eastern DRC. The Rwanda peace process seeks to address the security concerns between DRC and Rwanda, specifically the FDLR, while the Nairobi process seeks dialogue between the government of DRC and local armed groups. The combination of these two processes is key to the realization of stability in the region and should be given a chance to materialize. Rwanda calls upon the international community and this esteemed council to continue supporting these regional processes as the most viable path to a sustainable solution to the insecurity in Eastern DRC. It is therefore important to give this initiative a chance to succeed. However, as the regional initiatives take shape, Rwanda is concerned by the persistent hostile posture, inflammatory statements, and repetitive threats of causing regime change by the government and leadership of DRC, which stokes tension and risks derailing the positive steps made. Most recently, on 17th November 2024, during his visit to Katanga, President Felix Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo threatened to attack Rwanda if he's allowed to amend the DRC constitution. This reinforces his previous statements, echoing to cause regime change in Rwanda. In addition, the DRC Justice Minister, Mr. Constant Mutamba, while addressing inmates at Munzenze prison in Goma, vowed to hunt down the president of Rwanda. These inflammatory remarks are not reflected in the report, yet they are critical to understanding the security threats that Rwanda faces. President, Council members, On 30th July 2024, a ceasefire was agreed between DRC and the conflicting parties to the conflict in Rwanda under the facilitation of the Angolan authorities, which came into force on 4th August 2024. The ceasefire had largely held, but recent multiple violations by the FARDC and allied groups have compelled the M23 to respond in self-defense in what the report portrays to be expansion of territory. This esteemed council should prevail over the parties concerned to respect the ceasefire rather than condemning one party. As we have repeatedly said, there is no military solution to the conflict in eastern DRC. The FARDC continues amassing all sorts of troops in its support, will only cause, the FARDC's continued amassing of all sorts of troops in its support will only cause further chaos, mayhem, and suffering of innocent civilians. This is already evident with the prevailing violence and insecurity, especially in the city of Goma. Madam President, allow me to clarify one issue regarding the false narrative of mineral exploitation. The issue of minerals and Congolese wealth is always mentioned as being the cause of the conflict. Mineral exploitation is meant to distract the attention of the international community from the real issues and root causes of the conflict. Rwanda sits on the same geological rock with the eastern DRC, and all the minerals found there are equally found in Rwanda. The areas close to Rwanda are rich in famous 3 T's and gold, which Rwanda also is abundantly endowed with. Other minerals like the diamonds are in the Bujimai, copper and cobalt in Katanga. These are located thousands of kilometers inside of DRC, far away from the border with Rwanda. Therefore, is Rwanda the one exploiting them to the extent of impoverishing the DRC? Certainly not. The history of mining in Rwanda dates back to 1930s, when the Belgians, as colonies, started mining in Rwanda. The mining industry continues to grow to date thanks to advanced technology and investments in the sector. In addition, since 2012, Rwanda has been tagging and certifying its minerals right from the mining concessions to ensure international traceability. The only solution to address the illegal exploitation in eastern DRC is to put in place the infrastructure, laws, and trade regulations, all of which cannot be realized without peace. We should therefore commit ourselves to peace. Madam President, Rwanda notes with concern the reported presence of GPS jamming and spoofing that affects the land and air assets of the United Nations Security Management System. This area mentioned is close to Rwanda and equally poses a significant security threat to us. We are gravely concerned by the continued heavy militarization and proliferation of sophisticated weaponry, coupled with uncoordinated operations by armed groups in the area. We hope that the work of the reinforced ad hoc verification mechanism will shed light on these concerns. Madam President, Council members, before I conclude, I would like to emphasize that Rwanda recognizes regional initiatives that seek a comprehensive approach to the conflict in eastern DRC. Rwanda appeals to this Council to give chance to these initiatives to materialize without the influence of foreign actors who benefit from the unstable DRC and by large the region. I therefore wish to highlight and emphasize 4 important key points that are crucial to resolving the current conflict in eastern DRC. 1, DRC must own its internal problems. The M23, who are largely Kinyarwanda-speaking Congolese, are Congolese citizens, and their citizenship rights cannot be denied. Their grievances have to be addressed by their government. 2, the Rwanda and Nairobi peace process should be given a chance to materialize. DRC must disengage with FDR, a genocidal terrorist armed group that poses an existential threat to Rwanda. FDR and its splitter groups are currently embedded with the Congolese army, FARDC, and are armed and supported by the